Hey, Brent. I need to get people down here. But why isn't this microphone working? Hey, Brent. Brent, can you come here for a second? So I was going to tap the mic. Oh, yeah. Can we get everybody participating over here by the podium, please? Move over just a tad this way, just a tad to the left. Okay, great. Is that good? All right.
Y'all ready? You set? All right. Good morning. I'm Steve Adler. I'm the mayor of Austin, Texas. And I'm here today with some other folks that you're going to be hearing from to say that this bathroom bill is bad for Texas. It's unnecessary. It poses economic risk for Austin and for the state of Texas. It does nothing to protect women or public safety, and in fact, this bill would make us less safe. That's why today we are here with top Texas law enforcement officers from across the state, top sexual offense experts, sexual assault survivors, public safety experts, superintendents, all here to show opposition to this bathroom legislation and to explain why bathroom regulation is not a public safety issue, nor is it a women's protection issue. The bathroom bill is discriminatory, plain and simple. And we as leaders want to set the record straight. Law enforcement personnel and professionals tell us that this bathroom bill does not address a public safety issue. This bathroom bill is a horrible solution to a non-existent problem that puts at risk and threatens some of the most vulnerable in our community. Passing this bill would be a self-inflicted wound of mammoth proportion. The real problem is school finance. The only thing the people of this state want this body to do in this building is to fix the school finance system. 75% of the tax increase, the property tax increase that we're feeling here in Central Texas, is because of the failure of the legislature to fix the school finance system. The legislature really wants to do something to actually help people. That's what they should be focused on. But instead, even as we stand here, they are debating a bathroom bill. Really? Running away from our real challenges by creating false distractions is not how Texas became great, and it's not the way that we do things here in Austin. In Austin, we know why Texas is great. And we know the real meaning of a word that we have all come to love, one that demonstrates and holds in it the real story of Texas, and that's the word y'all. Y'all doesn't just mean some of us. Y'all just doesn't mean everyone who votes in a particular primary. Y'all doesn't mean people who look exactly like you or dress like you or think exactly like you or are exactly like you. Y'all is Texas' gift to the English language. Y'all means y'all. It means all of us. It means every single one of us. It means every star and stripe in the flag and every color in the rainbow. In Austin, we know that diversity is our strength. Our differences are not something to be tolerated. Diversity makes us stronger. Hiding our differences divides us. It makes us less safe. It makes us less special. It makes Austin less special. It makes Texas less Texan. I'd like to introduce as the next speaker Austin's top law enforcement officer, Austin Police Chief Brian Manley. Now, I am not a law enforcement expert, but like most government officials, I depend on experts and our public safety professionals, like Austin Police Chief Brian Manley. And I rely on him to do my job and to keep Austin safe. I trust him. I trust his peers in law enforcement community, and when they tell me there is no evidence that this bill furthers public safety or protects women, I believe them. And it's important that you and the residents of this state hear from them. So let me bring up to the podium Police Chief Manley.
Good morning. I'm honored to stand here today with my peers in law enforcement, with advocates for victims of sexual assault, and with leaders in education and thought to talk about the legislation that's currently being considered in the Capitol behind us. As the police chief in Austin, my paramount concern is the safety of the residents of Austin. And that's what every law, every ordinance, every public police policy needs to be geared towards, is the safety of our community. And I do not see the bill that is being considered, as we know it, the bathroom bill, increases public safety in any way, but instead could in fact and will jeopardize the safety of many in our community. And that's why you see so many of us out here today to talk about this very important issue. This bill, in fact, will make the job of law enforcement more difficult. When we're combating challenges across the community with violent crime and other issues, if a bill like this were to be passed that would pull police officers' time away from combating violent crime into enforcing a bathroom bill, it makes communities less safe. It is time not spent combating crime, time not spent ensuring community safety. I am not aware of any evidence that shows there has been a problem with men entering into women's bathrooms to create issues. And if there were to be, we already have laws on the books to address that behavior. So this bill, in the way that it is written and would be enacted, does nothing more than to marginalize part of our society that is already marginalized, and it is going to make our communities less safe. I also have a concern of how would law enforcement, if called to respond to a circumstance under this law, how would we respond? How is an officer expected to handle that call and even try to verify any of the circumstances that would be required under this law? It puts officers in an untenable position, and it works against public safety, and it is not in the best interest of the community. And for that reason, it is merely an attempt to solve a problem that I do not believe exists and have not seen any evidence that it exists. And that's why I am proud to stand here along with my peers from major cities around Texas to speak out about the concerns we have with this bill and how it would pull police officers away from the important duties we already need them to do. So for that reason, I'm proud to represent the Austin Police Department and stand here today with my peers speaking out on this issue. And I'm now going to introduce the next speaker, my mentor, a man I consider a friend and a colleague, Art Acevedo, Chief of the Houston Police Department.
Thanks, Chief Manley, and thanks, Mayor Adler, both of you for your leadership and obviously for weighing in on an issue that matters. It's an issue that should matter to all Texans. And it seems to me, standing here today in the middle of July when we should all be enjoying a vacation, that it's like Groundhog Day. It's almost like here we are again, back at the Capitol as a community of law enforcement professionals to say no to bad public policy. Bad public policy and law that's being packaged by some members of this body as a public safety measure. Now, first and foremost, let's make something clear. We already have plenty of laws on the books, which is something that we're told here time and again, year in and year out, by this legislative body, especially the very conservative members of this legislative body, that we don't need any more laws, that we're about small government, and here we go again with a body that doesn't understand that this is bad law. It may be great political theater, kind of like SB 4, which is the anti-immigration bill. It may make great great turnouts for them in terms of primary politics. It may be great for primary elections, but it is bad on public safety. First, let me make it real clear. Myself and my department, all the departments you see back here, we've been checking our database. You see these horrific crimes that this bill purportedly will prevent. And I've got news for them. We have yet to find anything that this will prevent, because in truth, this is a purported solution that is in search of a problem, a non-existent problem. What this is going to do is once again bring the American law enforcement professional, the Texas law enforcement professional, into a situation where now folks will feel emboldened. They will feel that they can discriminate. They will feel that they can target, and they will feel that they can have vigilante justice out there because of this law. So we are urging all Texans to weigh in on this matter. Please don't put another handcuff, another burden on our overburdened law enforcement community here in the state of Texas. Lastly, let's just talk about the economic impact. Texas is supposed to be about creating economic opportunity. We are a city, like the rest of our cities, where we don't have enough resources in law enforcement. We have 75% of our cars in law enforcement in Houston, Texas are beyond the miles they should be. We don't have the staffing. Every one of these departments are understaffed. And the last thing we need is the confusion that this will create, the open season it will create on discrimination, and lastly, the burden it's going to create potentially on law enforcement. Again, it's important to note, I've talked to dozens and dozens of my officers in Houston, Texas, representing hundreds of years of experience, and I've asked them about this bathroom bill and what it is being packaged, that it's going to protect people. And you know what they've told me? Chief, we don't know what problem they're talking about. 31 years in law enforcement, I've yet to go to a bathroom call. Sorry, whoever mic that is. Oh, it's the Statesman, then we're good. It's the Statesman, we're good. That's kind of payback. That's karma for the last 9.5 years that you guys beat me up, so thank you. So I got Herman, take it to the bathroom, he just did. That wasn't funny, too soon. But the bottom line is this: please, Texans, members of the legislature, let's not create also the economic calamity that this will create. Big business has spoken out. Law enforcement has spoken out. A lot of clergy have spoken out. And I think that in this case with law enforcement, when you have, once again, labor with the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas that represent thousands and thousands of Texas police officers, and the Texas Municipal Police Association, again, thousands of officers. These are the men and women on the front lines that are saying, we don't want this bill. So if you want to pass this law, have at it, but don't include the good name of Texas law enforcement on it, because labor and management are lockstep on this. It's bad law, it's bad political theater, and at the end of the day, it's bad for Texas. And with that, I'd like to bring up my friend. I'm not going to call him my mentor, even though he's old enough to be a mentor. My friend Bill McManus from San Antonio.
You know, beyond my wildest dreams, I never thought that I'd be standing in front of the state capitol talking about a bathroom bill. Like police don't have anything better to do but worry about who goes in what bathroom. I asked my department to go back through our records over the years and see if we ever had any issues with people going into the wrong bathrooms, people being assaulted in bathrooms, and we went back. And guess what we found? We found that there were no reported incidents of bathroom assaults by anyone. Not one. I believe that if you propose a bill to address a criminal justice concern, it's important to determine if you actually have a problem. This bill is a solution looking for a problem. The bathroom bill doesn't pass the test, the most basic test, of any public safety bill. It does nothing to make us safer. More than that, it creates new complications for police officers. It targets transgender Texans. It will sow confusion among the general public. Women will be using restroom facilities now will be joined by men, the very thing proponents of the bill say that they're trying to prevent. So how does this help? If discomfort is what we're trying to prevent, this bill will create discomfort on steroids. We speak less about this, but women will also be forced to use the men's room. So the net effect of this bill is to create psychological trauma and confusion and to solve a problem, again, that doesn't exist. And then there's the problem it poses to law enforcement. How are we to determine if someone is using the facility of their gender of birth? Like SB 4, will we now be required to stand at the doors of bathrooms and ask for your birth certificate? This bill is impossible to enforce. It takes officers away from more pressing duty, whether responding to an assault, a burglary, drunk drivers, or a whole host of other public safety issues. As Chief of Police of one of America's 10 largest cities, I'm asking legislators, don't do this. Don't pass this unnecessary bill that does nothing to make us safer, that targets thousands of transgender Texans, and that makes our job more complicated. Members of the legislature, listen to your law enforcement leaders. Let's address real problems, real crimes that require our everyday attention. Now I'd like to introduce Dallas Police Major Ruben Ramirez.
Thank you. I stand here today in agreement with all of my brothers in blue across the state of Texas. Everything that I could say has already been said. What's the purpose of the legislation? Why are we here again? Arguably, there's no city in the state of Texas or America that's better suited to talk about the need for good legislation. The need for our legislators to support their law enforcement by equipping them with the tools to protect our citizens, to listen to their needs, the things that they're claiming they need help with. Statistically, in the city of Dallas, we went back to 2014 and found 0 claims of citizens being violated by the very idea that this bill purports to protect them from. In today's world of policing, we are all asked to do more with less. We are asked to use models like information-led policing, intelligence-led policing, where we listen to the complaints of our citizens, we look at the crime that occurs in our neighborhoods, and we allocate our resources accordingly. We disseminate our police officers to suit the needs of our citizens. Today I ask the state of Texas to do the same. Look at the research. Look at the statistics. If you support your police, then listen to your police. There's no need for this legislation. We've got a tough job. Our officers work hard. Our citizens need our help. There's no call for this bill. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Annette Burris.
Hi, I'm Annette Burris Clay. I'm Executive Director of the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. And I'm going to try to get to the right page so I don't go way over time. So for the past 35 years, TASA has been the voice for sexual assault survivors in Texas. And I wish I was here today to speak about some of the solid victim-centered bills that we had before the legislature during the regular session. If folks are looking, if the legislature are looking for a good bill, I could offer a laundry list of good bills that we need to pass in this state. But unfortunately, I'm here to speak out about House Bill 46, House Bill 50, Senate Bill 3, Senate Bill 23, Senate Bill 91, which market themselves as safety and privacy legislation for women, but they miss the mark by miles. So let me be clear. These bills do nothing to prevent sexual assault. And I am personally offended that sexual assault has been co-opted to promote these bills. I've been doing this work for almost 40 years in 2 states, and I've never encountered nor heard of a single solitary woman or child who has been victimized in a public restroom or a locker room by a man posing as a woman. As I've heard others charitably explain, this bill is a solution in search of an actual problem. And if I believe this bill was just another innocuous but harmless bill, I wouldn't bother to speak out. But unfortunately, that is not the case here. Although restricting restroom access for transgender women, men, girls, and boys does not make it safer for others, it does accomplish putting them at risk. The target of this bill, transgender people, are more than twice as likely to be victims of sexual assault and hate crimes than the general population. And who believes it's a responsible idea to send a young transgender girl into the men's room based on their birth certificate? This is not a public safety issue. It's our job to understand where, why, and how sexual assaults occur. And I can state definitively that bathroom bills do not protect women. Instead, these efforts contradict decades of research. Over 90% of child sexual assault victims are abused by someone known to them, and the vast majority of child sexual abuse occurs in private residences, not in public spaces. Moreover, if lawmakers care about sexual assault, they will focus on solutions based on evidence and not on rhetoric. We urge the legislature to reject these discriminatory bills. TASA, as well as over 80 rape crisis centers across the state, stand ready to inform and support lawmakers as they promote good bills. I'd also like to say that when you have law enforcement and victim advocates and survivors on the same page, just perhaps somebody should actually listen to them. Maybe we have something worth saying that's worth listening to. I'd now like to introduce Lavinia Masters. She's an amazing woman. She's an activist, she's an advocate, and she is a survivor of sexual assault.
Good morning. I am Lavinia Masters, and I come to you today from Louisville. It's a suburb of Dallas in North Texas. I stand today before you speaking as a survivor of a violent sexual assault and a survivor that questions the propaganda of the bathroom legislation. In my mind, I pose the question, will this law actually help rape survivors such as myself? I wonder, can legislators indeed protect all victims of sexual assault, or are we putting victims in greater danger with laws that make rape survivors such as myself feel like we're being used as a pawn during this particular legislation? When I was 13 years old, someone broke into my home while I slept on the couch and my siblings slept on the floor. My parents were upstairs sleeping and raped me at knife point. I call this a monster a man that was in the form of a monster that entered into my home. He took my innocence away. I wonder, what did I do wrong? Why did I deserve the things that happened to me to be a victim of rape? Now, fast forward, as I look back over my encounter with death, I'd like to share that my victimization was actually threefold, and that is the actual rape itself, the insensitivity of the police at that time, and the hospital administration personnel, and then to later learn that my rape kit or my DNA evidence actually sat on the shelf for over 20 years before it was processed. So I stand to you today to say that if lawmakers really want to make the state of Texas greater and safer, then legislation should focus on the ridiculous amount of backlog rape kits sitting on those shelves that I personally feel is actually the key to each victim's release. Then let us expand that focus on getting more sane or forensic nurses in place so they can properly examine and collect this rape evidence. And please, please, please do not fail to properly and adequately train other officers, judges, and law enforcement officials, or anyone of that matter that encounter rape victims and sensitivity so that they may understand how I can't say it, I get emotional, but how downgrading it is and fragile the act of rape is to a victim. I would also like to tell legislators that while I applaud you for your efforts of wanting the bathroom bill to be all-inclusive for rape victims, I honestly wish that the same time, money, and effort be reshifted on things that are happening now and that are real issues in our great state. I honestly get confused, and I am somewhat perplexed as to why legislators aren't focused on the sexual assaults that are happening right now, the vast amount of rapes in public places, the violations in hidden and abandoned or rural locations, the rapes on college campuses and military bases. And let us not forget the violent and vicious attacks that happens in the privacies of one's own home, like it happened to me. I'm standing here almost heartbroken because the same resources, the same valuable time and effort that is put forth in this bathroom bill is greatly needed in the funding of the massive backlog of rape kits in our state. Do you not understand that this would lead to the capture or the identity of actual rapists? Do you really care that victims will be able to release, or in other words, get their lives back? Being that I'm a woman of great faith, I believe that God is about balance. And with that being said, I believe as leaders that you are required to properly prioritize your agendas and to be careful not to abuse your authority when it comes to leading and persuading people. Right now, I feel that we are being forced to talk about the non-existing problems of protecting women in bathrooms, that we are being denied the opportunity to heal as victims because you refuse to deal with the demanding issues such as the backlog of the rape kits here in Texas, knowing that the DNA evidence that we process, that you possess, is what I like to call an actual footprint from God. I am a survivor of a violent sexual assault, and trust me, I am not in any opposition of any bill that will guarantee the public safety. However, I do oppose any bill that does not honestly depict what public safety really is with regards to rape and its meaning. Therefore, I urge Texas legislators to do the same when it comes to this bathroom bill. Now, I would like to introduce Representative Joe Moody, the top criminal justice expert at the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'm one of those lawmakers that likes to listen to experts to inform my policy decisions, and I'm going to be working to convince my colleagues to do the same over the next few weeks. Statistics are what you've heard about here or lack of statistics. I hope that message is brought forward as well. These problems don't exist. There are very real problems within our sexual assault laws. There are gaps in our sexual assault laws. And in fact, bills that were meant to help alleviate those problems were sidelined during the regular session because of nonsense like the bathroom bill, because people were afraid that they would be hijacked in the legislative process to then be turned into the bathroom bill. That's what happens to good public policy when you have legislation like this come forward, when you don't allow experts to inform your decision making. Before I came here, I was fortunate enough to work as a prosecutor in El Paso. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there are tools available to our law enforcement and to prosecutors across this state to go after folks if they're conducting themselves this way. There's no question about it. What we need is a focus on the impact that this is going to have on a marginalized segment of our society. Statistics that matter as well. 77% of K through 12 students who are transgender report being mistreated because of who they are. 54% report being harassed. 24% physically attacked. 13% sexually assaulted. So one of these bills is talking about public schools. 13% of kids who are transgender are sexually assaulted during their school years because of that identity. This bill makes people less safe, not more safe, and is impossible to enforce. So I call on the legislature to bring dignity and respect and safety to everyone, because no one deserves less than that, and law enforcement and sexual assault survivors have my commitment to try and restore sanity in this conversation. I'd like to now introduce Chief Deputy Sheriff Sylvia Aguilar from the El Paso Sheriff's Department.
My name is Sylvia Aguilar. I'm the Chief Deputy from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office in El Paso, Texas. And I've dedicated my life to enforcing the law. I've been in law enforcement 35 years. Prior to my appointment as the Undersheriff of El Paso, I served as a deputy chief with the El Paso Police Department before I retired after 25 years of service, and then I was appointed as a chief of police for the town of Horizon City, also in El Paso. And I have to tell you that in my entire time of dedicating myself to public service, I have never seen or heard of this type of crime happening in a bathroom. And I've got to tell you that in El Paso, for those of you that are familiar with my city, it's pretty far away, but we are inclusive, and it's a very diverse city. And we applaud and value the diversity, and we oppose discrimination, any kind of discrimination. We value our Constitution, and we believe that these laws that discriminate a segment of the population that already has had so many hardships cannot possibly be good for you, for us, for the law enforcement community. And I mean, here I am standing with some of the most decorated, some of the most lauded professionals in the state of Texas in my field. You've got the chief from Houston, the chief from Austin. You have the representatives from Dallas and throughout this great state of Texas. And nobody ordered us to be here. We chose to be here because it's important. Nobody told us what had to be said. We're speaking from experience, from years of law enforcement, from years of public service dedication, from the servant heart that we all come from. We currently have laws that address crime, that address assaults, that address certain issues that these bills have already been passed. These laws are in the books. There is no evidence in the criminal record that we have men posing as women to target Texans in restroom facilities. Bathrooms are not the problem. The state has a crisis on its hands, and that is that our children are being abused and neglected and even dying, and all this on the watch of the state of Texas. We have real problems such as homicide, sexual assaults, domestic violence, drug offenses, and driving under the influence. Any attempt to draw the focus away from those problems and to bathrooms should be widely condemned. This bill attempts to solve a problem that doesn't exist, and we as law enforcement officers already have a host of real problems we attend to every day to keep our community and our citizens safe. We don't need a law that's primary purpose is to discriminate against a class of people who already face hardships and discrimination. That is not the Texas that we love. We as law enforcement officers oppose the unnecessary legislation, and we encourage our lawmakers to do the right thing and to reject this bathroom legislation. Now I would like to introduce my counterpart from Harris County, Assistant Chief Deborah Schmidt.
Hello. I'm Harris County Sheriff's Office Assistant Chief Deputy Deborah Schmidt. I'm here today to speak as one of the top female law enforcement officers in the state of Texas. That bathroom bills are not about protecting women's privacy or about public safety. There is no public safety crisis in our bathrooms right now. Excuse me. Bills like these are solutions in search of a problem that just does not exist. I've dedicated my life to enforcing our laws so that my friends, family, and neighbors can live in safe and vibrant communities. If I thought that we were facing a safety crisis in our public restrooms, you can bet I'd be one of the first clamoring to address it. But that is just not happening. I believe we should take threats to the public seriously. But that means acknowledging what those threats are and allocating resources in an appropriate and responsible way to get the job done. When we spin our wheels over made-up scare tactics like this, we're doing a real disservice to our communities. We're not talking about how we can better address real public safety threats like domestic violence or illegal drug use. On behalf of the Harris County Sheriff's Department, I encourage lawmakers to reject this legislation. Now, I would like to introduce Chief of Police Kirby Warnke from Corpus Christi ISD.
Greetings, and thank you guys for being out here in the heat with us. Note to self, summer wardrobe. My name is Kirby Warnke. I'm the proud Chief of Police of the Corpus Christi Independent School District Police Department. I've been in law enforcement for 27 years, 20 of those with the Corpus Christi Independent School District Police. I've served in every capacity I could: line officer, sergeant, shift commander, internal investigations, and now chief since 2010. Never in my experience in any of those roles have I ever written, approved, or otherwise looked over a report that had anything to do with addressing this issue. I do agree with my brothers and sisters and everything that's been said before us that this is a problem looking for a solution. It's a distraction from the real problems. You know, our law enforcement lawmakers have really important duties to address concerns that we really have. I want to echo the sentiment of the mayor. We should address school finance. Let's address unfunded mandates, but let's not waste our time on a bill that does nothing to protect our citizens. Thank you so much. I would now like to introduce the Superintendent of San Antonio Northside ISD, Brian Woods.
Good morning. I'm here today on behalf of my colleagues across the state, and certainly those in San Antonio who, along with our Chamber of Commerce, signed on to a letter to oppose the so-called bathroom legislation. We have many, many more important issues to deal with in our state than passing a bathroom bill. As you've heard many times, a solution in search of a problem. For the kids that go to Northside ISD and for the millions of kids who go to public schools all across our state, this bill will not make them safer. Proponents of this bathroom bill have grossly overstated the significance of this concern. I don't know if I could find a principal anywhere who would tell me that this issue is in the top 10 of their list of concerns or worries. The Northside Independent School District, like many of our large districts across the state, have made accommodations for transgender students, and it has worked. We and our counterparts across the state also make accommodations for students with emotional and physical needs. In fact, we're focused on what is best for each and every student. Those decisions are best left to those closest to the students involved. The bottom line is I'd sure like to see the Texas legislature spend its valuable time on more important issues, many of which you have heard about today. I could talk about some others like school finance, funding fast-growth schools across our state, and generally being more supportive of the schools that educate the 5.3 million children in public schools in the state of Texas. We all want to ensure that our children are safe, but we also want to ensure that they are treated respectfully and with dignity. Let's focus on the issues that matter to school children across our state, as well as to local taxpayers. The bathroom bill is nothing more than a distraction for the bigger concerns that impact all of us. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, everybody. Well, you've all heard from the many voices of law enforcement. You've heard from advocacy groups. You've heard from survivors. You've heard from educators. And the message was clear. This is bad. This is a bad law, a necessary law, a law that will lead to discrimination, to harassment, to the further marginalization of people that are already targeted, that are at risk, and nothing else. Where's our compassion as Texans? I'm not a Texan by birth, but I'm an American and I'm a Texan by choice. And the Texas that I fell in love with in 2007 when I had the blessing of being selected to be a police chief here in the state is not the Texas of today. I think we need to search back into our collective psyche as Texans and figure out what has happened in a few short years where we've gone from a state that was always known for its hospitality, its love for strangers, its love for neighbors, to a state where we paint people with broad brushes. We're demonizing people based on immigration, based on sexual orientation, based on skin color, nation of origin. That's not the Texas that I fell in love with. And so I ask all Texans to listen to the voices of these police chiefs. I'm going to read a couple of statements here that I think are really important. Again, CLEAT, the state's largest officers union, and the Texas Municipal Police Association with 24,000 members. CLEAT's executive director, and again, Charlie Wilkinson and I sometimes don't agree on the time of day, day of week, week of the month, or month of the year, but on SB 4 and on this issue, we're lockstep. And Charlie told the Dallas Morning News, Texas has been governing illegal bathroom behavior for a while now. I'm not sure what the problem is that we're trying to address. Again, Kevin Lawrence, the executive director of the Texas Municipal Police Association with 24,000 members, said, Texas cops don't need to be responsible with regulating who goes into which bathroom. Law enforcement has more pressing issues than that. As a police chief of the fourth largest, soon to be third largest city, San Antonio, El Paso is here, Dallas is here, all the big cities are here, and small departments are here. Constables are here. We're united in saying enough is enough. Let's focus on solutions and not on trying to address non-existing problems. The last thing I will say is that I think the El Paso chief deputy kind of already addressed this, but I want to reiterate this. You know, Sylvester Turner's my mayor. He's my boss, and I'm very grateful that Mayor Turner has stood out and stood up against bad public policy. But I'm not here as his puppet. I'm not here at his direction. I'm not here at his because the truth of the matter is what they will try to do in this body is just try to write off what we're saying based on hundreds of years of experience as, oh, they're just doing whatever their progressive liberal mayors are telling them to do. And let me just say this. This is my 4th mayor with Sylvester Turner I've worked with as a police chief. And when we go for these jobs, they vet us, but guess what? We vet our bosses as well. Because at the end of the day, our oath of office, unlike what politicians want, it is an oath to them as individuals. Our oath of office is the Constitution of the United States. Our oath of office is to the mission, and our oath of office ultimately is to the people that we serve on the streets of Texas and throughout this nation. So they can try to write it off, but the truth of the matter is we're here talking as cops, as professionals, and I hope we're listened to. With that, we want to thank you for coming, and we will all be around for any questions you might have. But because of the heat and everything else, let's just, instead of doing it all at the podium, why don't we just do sidebars? We'll stick around for a few minutes. Thank you all for coming.